People, and welcome back to Gav Goes In. Big up yourselves each and every time. Guys, as always, when we come through, make sure we smash the like button. And again, make sure you sub to the channel. And guys, most importantly, share the channel. Share the channel. Obviously, my channel's about giving, a different kind of side to what other opinions people might have. I'm not on here to say that my opinion is the only opinion that matters. But with my football knowledge, my background in football, I always like to give people a different side of what they're seeing and just give them, just give basically a different kind of side to footballing opinions. Big up to Aesthetic 895. Big up. Yeah, I'm all good. I'm all good, man. Do you know what? I've actually been struggling, for the last couple of days with a injury to the back of my calf. So obviously I've got a boxing fight coming up in December. So yeah, I've been struggling a little bit with my calf, but yeah, you know what? It's getting slightly better. I've got training tomorrow, so hopefully, I'll be recovered in time. But one thing's for certain, yeah, and again, I'm probably someone that needs to do this as well, is what's important is going physiotherapy, man, and getting whatever sort of injury you have, get it sorted out, because you think of, people that go out and drink and spend like hundreds of pounds on drinking, what is a little bit of money to invest in your health, and your well-being. So yeah, man, I think anyone that has any sort of injury, and again, I've still got to do it myself, which I am going to do. You know what I mean? Invest in your health, man. Your health's important, 100%, and if you do that, not only should you live a long and healthy life, but it puts you in a good frame of mind, man, to go and do things, I think the way that I see things, especially now, everything's about your mindset for me. If you've got a strong mind, you can do anything. That's the absolute truth. So, yeah, have a strong mindset, have belief in yourself, and yeah, you can't go wrong, man. That's what I would say. Yeah, 6th of November, man. That's when the fight is. 5th of November. 5th of November. Oh, sorry. 5th of November. What's 5th of November? 5th of November. Yeah, let me know why 5th of November is an important date, man. Big up to Barbara Joseph, and big up to Daniela Iacona as well. Okay, Bayern PSG. Yeah. I forgot about that. I'll most probably be doing a watch along for that one, 100%. All the big games. I want to do a watch along with you guys. So yeah, 100%, man. We'll definitely try and get that going. So so yeah, but yeah, as I said, guys, man, just make sure if you guys have any sort of niggling injuries or anything up, then as I said, man, make sure you guys go and get that sorted, man. Invest in your health, man. That's the main thing, But anyway, we're gonna talk about something that you know what it is, yeah. I'm gonna enjoy this because this is something that I've spoken about for time, and again, I think a lot of people either do not understand or don't want to understand, or just a bit stubborn in how they see certain things. So, but yeah, listen, obviously, as you guys can see in the title, the 30 goal of the season striker talk has gone quiet at Manchester United. And again, it's not something that is surprising to me, but I think a lot of people, are fixated with how football used to be, and, the era that I grew up in, there was loads of goal scorers about, there was, even if you look in the Premier League, the Alan Shearers, the Michael Owens, the Andy Coles, the Robbie Fowlers, who else was there? Even like guys like Kevin Phillips, there was so many goal scoring strikers back in the Premiership back then, And then obviously you had the likes of the Fernando Torreses, the Didier Drogbas. Probably there's more players I'm even forgetting. The Ruud van Nistelrooys, the Henrys, etc. Like as I said, Football goal scoring strikers. If we're talking about the Premier League, if you want to go abroad, the Pippo Inzaghi's, the Batistuttas, the R9s. Who else was there? The Shevchenkos, Crespos. Like, as I said, football's been littered with goal-scoring strikers throughout the years. But what I would say now, and I think it's important that people need to realize this, because I don't really see too much conversation around this. But as I said, with my footballing knowledge and the experience that I've had in football, talking about things like this, does interest me. So I think when we're looking at strikers in world football right now, and obviously we are going to go back to obviously talking about Manchester United. You look at strikers right now in world football, and the ones that are scoring the obscene amount of goals, yeah, are the ones that are being talked about mostly now. The likes of Harry Kane and Erling Haaland. And then obviously you can put Mbappe in that as well. The reason for me, Mbappe doesn't really figure into that, because Mbappe for me is a left winger. I still see Mbappe as a left winger. He's not a central striker for me, even though, he can get away with playing as a central striker for Real Madrid, because obviously Real Madrid, Barcelona, those two teams do dominate the La Liga more times than not. So I think when we're looking at Mbappe, as I said, I see him as a left winger, but you can probably say he's probably a central striker in that league. I think if Mbappe was playing as a central striker in England, I think he'll struggle, because it's a different game. It's a different kind of physicality as well in the Premier League. But what I would say, we're looking at central strikers that get numbers. The only two strikers that are getting numbers, really, if we're taking out Mbappe, as I say, because he's a left winger for me, is Harry Kane and Erling Haaland. Harry Kane's more of a number 10. He's a hybrid. Number 10 can play as a number 10, number 9 for me. And obviously a great footballer. And then you've got Erling Haaland, who's a serial goal scorer. So I think people that are looking for 30 goal a season strikers in world football, the reality is they're not there no more, because that era of football has changed. You look at the likes of Benzema, Lewandowski, Luis Suarez, Sergio Aguero, obviously Harry Kane, I've mentioned, strikers like that. Those guys were getting, they were getting ridiculous numbers. They were getting nowhere near the numbers that I think what's being talked about now. I mean, if you look at Erling Haaland, for instance, his numbers are through the roof, really. The likes of Harry Kane now. The likes of Benzema, Suarez. I think Suarez had a season where he got mad numbers. But consistently, I don't think Suarez was hitting the kind of numbers that the Haalands or the Kanes are kind of hitting now. But what I would say is that people need to realise that the strikers that get 30 goals a season aren't there. They're just not there. So when I'm hearing Manchester United fans start of the season, this is why they were saying about Victor Gyokeres. When they were saying Man United need to go and get a 30 goal a season striker, yeah, to me, that lets me know that people are not really watching the game properly and they're not really understanding how football's gone, because the 30 goal a season striker just isn't there. And these players, you look at a lot of the players that are coming through now. A lot of the players coming through now are more like inside forwards. And again, you can look at the likes of Neymar, for example. The era that Neymar was coming in, a lot of youngsters looked up to Neymar as, like a footballing idol, a footballing god. And obviously Neymar played as a inside forward, even though he's a number 10. But a lot of the players that are coming through are more inside forwards, not number 9 strikers as such. Because if you look at strikers right now in world football, apart from Harry Kane and Erling Haaland, you've got Alexander Isak. But again, Isak had the good season at Newcastle, but he hasn't notoriously scored a load of goals as a central striker. You got Serhou Guirassy at Dortmund. To be fair, he has scored a few goals, but again, he's what, in his 30s. The Premier League doesn't really have too many goal scoring strikers. You've only got really Erling Haaland that is putting up serious numbers. Everyone else in the league, central strikers, are not putting up numbers. Big up to Fitz as well. Big up to Arsenal and Pakistan cricket team. So, yeah, the likes of Erling Haaland's the only one in this league that is putting up a serious amount of numbers in terms of a central striker. Then you move on to La Liga. You know, Kylian Mbappe is obviously in his second season. You know, he's put up good numbers in the first year. He's putting up good numbers in this season. Lewandowski is obviously getting on and is getting more injuries. You know, you can say that he's dropped off in terms of goals. And then you look at, sorry, 1 minute, guys. Then you look at Bundesliga. Mentioned Gyokeres, obviously Harry Kane. In France, there ain't really no one putting up numbers as a central striker. I mean, Mason Greenwood's getting goals, but Greenwood now is more of a right winger, you know. And you look at Ousmane Dembele that got numbers last season. He's not a natural 9. He's more of an inside forward come winger. So again, it's one of them things, guys, that people need to get over the fact that 30 goal a season strikers is what a club needs, because it's not that. You know, you're getting anomalies in the likes of Harry Kane and Erling Haaland. And as you can see, Harry Kane's into his 30s now. Erling Haaland's still in his mid-20s, you know. And those two are the only two serial goal scorers in terms of naturally born central strikers that are in world football, you know. And again, when you're bringing it back to Manchester United, yeah, this is why I said, when people were saying Victor Gyokeres, because Gyokeres is someone that can be mentioned, you know, because he did get a lot of goals last season for Sporting Lisbon. But as you can see, him coming to the Premier League, the guy's struggling. So again, these central strikers that people talk about that get numbers, they're few and far between. And it's just a myth, really, that people think that a team needs a striker that scores 30 goals. If you can go and find a striker that gets 30 goals consistently, then look, you're laughing. But the reality is, goals are not coming from the central strikers no more, which is why when I said at the start of the season, yeah, when Manchester United were linked to Victor Gyokeres, they needed to go and get an Ivan Toney, a Jean-Philippe Mateta, or a Johan Visser, because all three of them guys have all proved that they can score goals in the league. Yeah, in the Premier League. But not to mention, these guys create goals as well. And when you've got wide forwards in your team, which Man United have in Cunha and Bryan and Mbuemo, you know, the necessity for a central striker to get 30 goals, that's not how it works. And again, people need to realize that it's about having synergy in your team. It's about having a balance where, you know, if you've got goals from out wide, then you're going to have a central striker, really, that he's not really tasked with getting an obscene amount of goals. If you can get a striker that does that, then, again, it's a bonus. But the reality is, you're never going to get a central striker that gets loads of goals and then your wide forwards, you know, are getting the same amount, because that's not how football works. Something has to give. You know, this was the same conversation that, you know, I had with someone years ago about Cristiano Ronaldo. So although Ronaldo came in and got 18 league goals in a struggling team, again, just have a look at how many of them goals come in certain games, because I believe Ronaldo scored 18 goals in like 10 games, which when you actually break it down, you actually realize that 18 goals on paper looks good, but when they're coming across 10 games, all of a sudden, you know, it's not looking too good. So again, people want to ignore things like this, but again, it's important to realise. And although Ronaldo got the majority of the goals for Manchester United, you know, the rest of the team struggled. So, again, these are the kind of things that I don't see too many people want to talk about, because it's all about what they're seeing, which is the obvious thing. But I like to look at football a bit differently and try to give a different side to it. So, as I said, when you've got the likes of someone hogging the majority of the goals, it's never a good thing. It can never be a good thing. You know, I think Man City right now, they're going through a similar thing with Erling Haaland. Even though Erling Haaland, you know, is getting obscene amount of goals, the fact that the rest of the team are not really chipping in, you know, that can only last for so long, because what happened is that the pressure of Erling Haaland scoring week in, week out, you know, is going to be a case of, you know, there's too much for him to do in a sense. So goals need to be shared out. And This is why I said the likes of the strikers that Man United were linked with but never got over the line. Obviously, Benjamin Sesko's here now, and it is what it is. And so far, from what I've seen of Sesko, I've been impressed. I've been impressed with Sesko. But I think the fact that Vissa, Ivan Toney and Mateta all have experience of playing in this league, all have scored goals in this league, and then you've got the wide forwards that will get numbers in Mbuemo and Cunha. That was my reasoning to say this is why I believe those players should have been signed. But then again, there's fans out there, on certain channels that were saying Man United need to go and sign Victor Gyokeres. And again, for me, I look at that as a lack of understanding in terms of what Man United need, because Manchester United, when you're signing Cunha and Mbuemo, you don't need to go and get a 30-goal-a-season striker. That's not a necessity. As I said, Harry Kane is a bonus because Harry Kane can link the play and get numbers. So he's a bit of an anomaly, Harry Kane. He's a top player that can provide assists and provide goals. And again, Harry Kane, Man United were never getting Harry Kane because, not to mention, obviously, him coming from Tottenham, they were going to price United out of a move. Not to mention, again, he is getting on a bit as well. So, yeah, the necessity for Harry Kane in terms of what he provides as a goal source and assists would be good. But in terms of again, I'm just seeing a comment, spin of the wheel says he ain't joining United. And again, you've probably just come in right now and you're not really understanding what's going on because no one said Man United is signing Harry Kane. Like you're just putting something in the chat to say something, Listen to what I'm saying rather than just put something in the chat because no one said Harry Kane's joining Man United. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah? So, again, as I said, Manchester United signing Benjamin Sesko now. There was fans saying that Gyokeres was someone that United needed to sign because he got ridiculous amount of numbers in Portugal. But again, this is Portugal. That was Portugal. This is the Premier League. And you can see how much he's struggling. Now, to think that Man United pivoted to Benjamin Sesko, who got, 12 or 13 league goals in the Bundesliga, yeah? It's kind of embarrassing to see Man United fans saying, they wanted Gyokeres, and now all of a sudden, it's satisfying going for Sesko. And again, Sesko wasn't my first choice, but for what he's provided so far, in terms of the link play, what he's doing, and again, let's not forget he hasn't had too many games as it is anyway. I think it's one of them things where Sesko doesn't really need to get goals, just like Zirkzee doesn't have to really, if they're contributing in different ways. If it means the goals are coming from out wide, and again, this is how football works. So if you've got wide goal scoring forwards, you don't need to go and get a 30-goal-a-season striker. That's not how football works, unfortunately, for some people. So, as I said, if you can get both, then you're laughing. But the reality is, you don't go and get, because I guarantee you this year, if Gyokeres was at Manchester United, do people really think Cunha and Mbuemo would get numbers that would matter? Because I don't think it happens, because you can't have 3 players all in one lineup that are all goal hungry in a sense. And again, I'm not saying Cunha and Mbuemo are goal hungry, but they've shown at their previous clubs that they can get goals, which is why they were brought in. Like no Man United fan can say that Cunha and Mbuemo wasn't brought in because of their goal return for their previous clubs, because it clearly is that. So again, when you're bringing in players that are Spinner the Wheel doesn't know what he's talking about, man. Let's ignore him. So yeah, again, so when you're bringing in goal scoring wide players, as I said, the number 9 striker just needs to be a facilitator, which is why the fact that Joshua Zirkzee doesn't get more game time is criminal. Because if people think Joshua Zirkzee is going to get 20 to 30 goals a season, then I'm not sure what sort of player you think Zirkzee is or why you're thinking that. Because Joshua Zirkzee isn't going to score 20 to 30 goals. But what Joshua Zirkzee is going to do, he's going to provide assists. You know, he's going to make the team play better. And he will chip in with his fair share of goals. You know, so as I said, man, yeah, it's one of them things where, like, people just need to understand the difference of having goal-scoring wide players and having strikers as well. I mean, if you look at it like this, yeah, you know, look at Liverpool for example, yeah. If you look at Liverpool for example, you know, you've got Mo Salah that is tasked with getting goals. He's a wide forward, yeah. So if you've got Mo Salah as a wide forward, you know, the fact that they brought in Isak really doesn't really make sense because you've got a goal source in Mo Salah, which is why when you look at Ekatike's all-round game is more suited to helping a Mo Salah when you think about it, because Isak was known as being the main goal getter for the main goal getter for Newcastle, but him coming to Liverpool where it's a different pressure, you've already got a goal source in Mo Salah. So to bring in Isak, it's not a case where you bring in Isak and that means Isak and Salah are both going to get ridiculous numbers. Like, that's not going to happen. And as you can see so far this season, that isn't happening. You know, so yeah, it's one of them things where you got to have a balance in the team. You know, why do we think Erling Haaland gets ridiculous goals? Obviously, we know he's a goal scorer anyway, but you have to just look at what he's got around him. You know, there isn't no one in that team that is really a wide forward at Man City. There isn't. The closest player that you would say to someone in that Man City team that could get numbers or goals is Omar Marmoush. You know, so there's a reason why Haaland, as much as a goal scorer he is, the team is designed to create for Erling Haaland. So if you've got a serial goal scorer in your team, and then you've got Haaland that is and you've got creators around him, that's how it works. You know, and again, you go and look at all the teams in world football. You know, Harry Kane's the main source of goals for Bayern Munich. You've got Michael Olise, who's a number 10 playing out wide. He's a creator. Luis Diaz is a winger. He's a creator, and he does shipping with goals as well. You know, again, you look at Real Madrid. You've got Vinicius Jr., who's a wide forward. You've got Mbappe, really, who's a wide forward, really, as well. And then you've got, on the right-hand side, Rodrigo hasn't been playing. And again, that's one to look at because, Rodrigo is someone that, you know, for me, he's finding himself more on the bench now. But then you look at players that can play out there, Arda Güler, Franco Mastantuono. You know, these guys are more number 10s playing out wide. So the balance there in that front line, you know, it does kind of work because you've got the goal scorer in Mbappe, and then you've got Vinicius Jr., you know, who's obviously a wide forward as well. You look at Barcelona, yeah, you've got Lamine Yamal, who's a number 10 from out wide, you know, and can be looked at as a bit of a hybrid as well. That can be a winger. He's a creator first and foremost. Then you've got Lewandowski when he's fit, who's the goal scorer. And then you've got Rafinha, who is a bit of a hybrid in terms of a winger and a wide forward that can score goals. You know, so... And then you've got Rashford, who's the wide forward. So, again, it's about having balance. And this is why I'm looking at Manchester United right now. And the fact that, although we're seeing this system, which you guys already know, I don't rate this system. But the system at the moment, you know, you've got Mbuemo, who's a wide forward playing as a 10. And then you've got Cunha, who is a 10, playing as a left 10. So, and then you've got Sesko that is starting as a striker right now. So the balance of the front three there, it does kind of work because you've got goals from out wide, and then you've got Sesko really that can chip in and can get goals. The preferred combination that I would like to see personally is a different system, playing Zirkzee as the 9, as the facilitator, and then playing Mbuemo as a right winger. and the same with Cunha on the left, and having Ahmad in the 10. So I think that would work a lot better. But then you would quickly realise that you're getting goals from out wide in Cunha and Mbuemo. You're getting a facilitator in Joshua Zirkzee, and then you're getting the creativity, and someone that can get goals in Ahmad playing as a 10. And then you've got the likes of Sesko on the bench that can come on and change a game. So again, it's about having synergy in your team and having a balance. And this is why I think for me it's important to see important that people do go away from this whole Man United need a 30 goal a season striker, because it isn't that. Arsenal are finding out right now. And I know there's fans obviously that are saying that Gyokeres will come good, etc. But the reason why Arsenal needed to go and buy Gyokeres is because a lot of fans were saying that was the missing piece for Arsenal. But when you've got the likes of, their wide players, again, in Saka and Martinelli, don't really get numbers to a level of a Mo Salah. But then again, there ain't really wide players in the game that do get numbers of a Mo Salah. Yeah. So this is why the necessity for them to buy Gyokeres would have been there, because they're purely looking at the fact that he's got goals for Sporting Lisbon, and this is why they brought him in. But as you can see right now, he's not really getting goals because it's a different kind of responsibility, different kind of pressure, and you can see he doesn't really fit into their team. These are the facts. I think if we're looking at Arsenal's record as well, I believe I heard a stat the other day, and again, I could be wrong, but I think they've only scored something like 7 open play goals, and why we yeah, so as I said, man, they will yeah. So I think Arsenal have got 7 open play goals, which just shows you everything. The majority of their goals are coming from set piece. So again, this whole bringing in Victor Gyokeres in because he's a number 9 that has scored goals for Sporting Lisbon, and thinking that's going to translate to the Premier League for Arsenal, you're seeing right now that that isn't the case. Because he isn't scoring the goals that many fans probably would have predicted. And as I said, man, it's one of them things where having a balance in the team is crucial. It is crucial, which is why when I watch Chelsea right now, yeah, Chelsea are, you could probably say, are sharing goals around. But the problem is Chelsea haven't really got Chelsea's front line is kind of confusing, because obviously Cole Palmer's out injured now, but then you've got their wide players in Neto, Esteval's playing out there, Garnacho and Gittins on the left-hand side. You've got all 4 wide players that none of them are goal-scoring wide players. Esteval's more of a 10 playing out wide. Neto is a winger. Garnacho and Gittins are wingers really as well. But again, them guys really don't score an obscene amount of goals from out wide. And then if you couple that with the central strikers in João Pedro and Liam Delap, obviously, who is out injured, he's obviously coming back. Again, you've got players there that don't score goals. So again, Chelsea's balance doesn't really make sense, because you haven't really got anyone that is a natural source of goals. The only player really you would say that has got goals for them, and is someone that you would say, I wouldn't say he's a proven goal scorer, but he's someone that has shown that he can get goals, is Cole Palmer. But Cole Palmer isn't someone that you look at as getting a lot of goals. He's someone that is like he's a maverick in terms of, with him in your team, you're going to be better. So Chelsea is the prime example. Chelsea probably would have been better off getting a wide player that is known for getting goals, or getting a striker that is known for getting goals, rather than having 4 players that are in that position, and none of them you can say is there to get goals from out wide. And then when you couple that with the strikers that are not really known for scoring goals of an obscene amount, yeah, their balance doesn't really make sense. So again, man, it's about having balance in your team. I'm gonna go through some of your comments to see what we're saying. Guys, let me know what you think, if it makes sense as to what I've discussed. Big up to Mike as well. So Less Maths Debate says Yilmaz linked with Arsenal. Is that Yilmaz from Galatasaray? Baris Yilmaz from Galatasaray. But again, Baris Yilmaz is, if we're talking about for the conversation we're having right now, you know, if you're going to get Baris Yilmaz, that means for me, one of Martinelli or Trossard, have to be leaving. Because Baris Yilmaz can play as a central striker and play from the left. So if you're going to bring in Baris Yilmaz, that means, or if he's been linked, that means I'm looking at the likes of Trossard or Martinelli being moved on. Havertz is better than Gyokeres. As a footballer, he is. Yeah, definitely. And as I said, when Havertz gets back fit, Arteta's got a decision to make, because he does rate Havertz highly. And it's one of them things where, does he bring Havertz back in for Gyokeres? Gyokeres' confidence might be on the floor if that happens. Because Havertz does fit into the way that Arsenal play. But then it means, well, why bring Gyokeres if that's the case? So again, Arteta's got decisions to make when Havertz comes back, because I definitely do feel that once he's back fit, I think Havertz does play. So what I notice is United have the most balanced attack because all three of our attackers can distribute goals between them. Other teams rely on one player, and Arsenal rely on everyone but Gyokeres. But again, this is how football works, because I remember having this debate, with someone, and I just gave them 3 players to see where the thinking was, yeah? And if you was to have a front three of Mo Salah, Erling Haaland, and Marcus Rashford, let's say, and again, I'm going to ask the chat. There's 63 of you watching. Let me know your views, guys. Put your answers in. If you was to have a front three of Rashford, Salah, and Haaland, do you think that front three gets an obscene amount of goals? Simple question to answer. So just tell me if you think yes or no, and I'll get back to it. So Haaland, Rashford, or Salah, does that front three get an obscene amount of goals? Let's see what the thinking is. But again, Man United's front three they have now, and again, I think it's important to look at, because this system is a 3-4-2-1. It's important to look at. It's for me, it can be even more dangerous in a different system, But I look at the profiles of all 3 of them in terms of Zirkzee, Mbuemo, and Cunha that are playing there. Ahmad should be part of that conversation, but when we have to watch him at wing back, let's leave him out for that point of view. The balance of those 4 there is very good, because you've got goals in Cunha and Mbuemo, and then you've got facilitators or guys that can chip in Zirkzee and Sesko. So again, the balance of our attack is very good from what I'm seeing. But again, in a 4-2-3-1, for me, it can be even more dangerous, Big up to Jay, big up. So Endrick's linked with Arsenal. Yeah, Arsenal are not going to go in for Endrick. They're not going to do that, because when you've spent the money on Gyokeres and then you've got Kai Havertz as well, and let's not forget Gabriel Jesus is still there as well. You're not really going to go in for Endrick, and then there'll be a hefty loan fee to pay as well. So that's not going to happen. But one thing's for certain, I do think Endrick will be on the move because of the World Cup, and this is why for me it's good the World Cup is actually at the end of the season, because there's a lot of players that are not even playing now that will know that they have to be on the move, because the World Cup comes around every 4 years. And if you're sitting on the bench by the time Christmas comes and January's here, you have to get out, which is why it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the likes of Kobbie Mainoo and Joshua Zirkzee, because they're 2 players for me that have to be starting for Man United definitely in a different system under a different manager. But they're two players that are going to be talked about as being on the move in January, whether it's a loan move or a permanent, because there's no doubting that this manager does not rate them. So yeah, it's something to look at. But yeah, Endrick's not going to go to Arsenal. Definitely not. I think Gyokeres is struggling because Arteta doesn't set the team up to play to his strengths, the same with Eze. But this is the problem. This is why when people were saying Gyokeres needs to go to Arsenal because he's someone that scored a lot of goals for Sporting Lisbon, that doesn't always work. So again, you could see with your eyes that the way Gyokeres plays was never going to fit into Arsenal's style of play. But Arsenal probably looked at him as being someone that they knew, or Arteta looked at it as someone that they knew was never going to fit their style of play. But it's one of them things where, it could work. It could work in their favour. But I reiterate again, just because someone has scored a lot of goals in a different league doesn't mean it's going to translate to the Premier League. Because that isn't how football worked or football works. Arsenal would have been better off, getting obviously Havertz obviously had the injury, but Arsenal would probably been better off not going for Gyokeres and getting a left winger, that would have provided goals. Maybe someone like an Anton Semenyo at Bournemouth would have been a better bet getting him in. Someone that has scored goals in this league and is scoring goals at the moment in this league. Having him one side, having Saka the other, and then having a number 9 that was probably more reliable in terms of staying fit, but could do a similar job in terms of what Havertz done. They would have been probably better off going down that route. But again, they've got Gyokeres in, and they're going to have to hope that he does hit the ground running, which, as I said, I've seen Gyokeres play, and his all-round game is pretty poor. You know what I mean? So, and not to mention as well, he doesn't really score against the better teams in the league. So this is something that the Arsenal fans need to be looking at, man. So congratulate the United manager. You have been trolling him ever since. Again, Africa will never unite, says you've been trolling him. Go and find me a stream of mine where I've been trolling the manager. I don't troll anyone. I just come on here and give my opinion and stick to my opinion. Like, just because Amarim's won 3 games in a row, for me, that's not enough for me to say all of a sudden now we've got to back the manager. Like, nah. Like, that's what you call a flip-flop of a fan. At the end of the day, I'm not going to come on there and start saying Amarim out, you know what I mean? Because it's a waste of time. At the end of the day, he's won 3 games in a row, albeit very, very luckily, I would say, in certain games. And it's all about what can he do moving forwards. I think any Man United fan that starts saying Amarim needs to, be given more time, or you was wrong in what you were saying, I think that shows more about you, if anything. Because at the end of the day, I have my opinion that this manager, for me, isn't good enough for many reasons. And I'm going to stick to that until I see a big, vast change in how the team are performing. Because I look at those 3 games United have won, and it hasn't been convincing, put it that way. So I think it's important for people to just remain cautious with their Ruben Amorim talk, for me. So D Dragon says, elephant in the room, Chelsea with all the money spent are nothing special without Palmer, despite all the money spent. But I mean, to be honest with you, that is, people can say that. Because I said this the other day, to think Chelsea have spent all that money and they've got a front 3 that played against Sunderland of Garnacho, Mark Gu, and Pedro Neto. Questions have to be asked, because you don't spend all that money to have a front 3 of that. It is poor. But As I said, man, Cole Palmer's a top player. He's a top player, and any team would miss a player like Cole Palmer. But you would have hoped that the money that they've spent, they'll be putting up a better showing than what they have. So I've seen us linked to Agume from Sevilla. Also, I'm big on Semenyo when Trossard leaves. Yeah, listen, Lucien Agume has been linked. I think he's definitely one of the names as a right-sided central midfielder, along with Elliot Anderson. For me, a combination of Beleba. Again, for those of you that haven't watched my channel before, my main target has always been Eduardo Camavinga from Real Madrid, but Camavinga's more of a fantasy kind of signing. Man United should have signed Camavinga when he left Rennes. But again, Real Madrid obviously saw the vision, and Real Madrid with with their popularity in terms of their club, the pull of Camavinga going to there was too strong for United. But Camavinga, Man United should have identified Camavinga time ago when he was coming through at Rennes. But the options for me in central midfield for United are Beleba, Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson, and Lucien Agume. I think there's been talk about Angelo Stiller, who I like, but I think Stiller being left-footed as well, I'd have Beleba or Adam Wharton as the candidates ahead of him, even though I do think Stiller's a good player. But those four for me should be the targets in central midfield. Even though Beleba was poor against United the other day, Beleba's still a top target for me for many reasons. I like Adam Wharton, but I think Adam Wharton's going to go to Man City. I think Wharton goes Man City. I think everything's set for Wharton to go Man City, possibly to replace Rodri. So, but I love Adam Wharton at Man United because I think he's a top player. And then Agume and Anderson. I mean, the reason why I'm a bit tight-lipped on Agume and Anderson is because Kobbie Mainoo, for me, has a future at Manchester United, but not under this manager and not in this system. So we have to wait and see what happens. But those four, for me, will be the four that, will be looked at, for me. Yes, listen, Semenyo. Will Semenyo be on the move from Bournemouth? I mean, he signed a new contract. So, and again, what they were asking for Man United was about 70 million. So I don't see no one paying that amount of money. But what they should have done, Arsenal, is rather than buy Gyokeres, probably look at a Semenyo as an upgrade on Martinelli and Trossard. So, but again, they chose Gyokeres. So that's something they got to live with. So yeah, a lot of yeses, man. So again, people that are saying yes, going back to the question of does Salah, Erling Haaland and Marcus Rashford equate to a lot of goals? Again, all the ones that are saying yes, yeah, which has been the majority of people that have voted. Again, just a bit of education for you guys, yeah? That's not how football works, because the very fact that people are saying yes, that would work, it shows that how people are seeing football, because football doesn't work where you've got three players that are goal-hungry players. If you look at Salah, Salah gets the most goals at Liverpool because the way the team is set up is to maximize Salah's output. The same with Erling Haaland, and as we know, Marcus Rashford at Manchester United was a shoot-first player. So if you've got shoot-first players in your team and you've got goal-hungry players, why do people think that front three would work? Because it doesn't work. That's not how football works. You need to have a balance. If you look at, for instance, the front three of Erling Haaland, Riyad Mahrez, and let's say a Jack Grealish, yeah, that front three works. Why? Because you've got a serial goal scorer in Erling Haaland. You've got a player in Riyad Mahrez that can get goals, but is a creator first and foremost. And then you've got Jack Grealish that is a creator and can chip in with goals. So that front three works. But anyone that thinks a front three of Haaland, Salah and Rashford works, again, it shows the understanding just isn't there, because you don't have three goal-getters and think it's all going to work. That isn't how football works, unfortunately. It's like if you got a front three of Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo, Kylian Mbappe, and Mo Salah, let's say. Like, on paper, people will think that works, but the balance and the chemistry wouldn't be there. Because to start with, you've got three players there that would want to be seen as the superstars. So again, that's not going to work. Yeah. Not to mention, Ronaldo with his profile will be looking at him being the main goal scorer. But then you've got the likes of Salah and Mbappe that are tasked with getting goals for their clubs. So again, that's just a bit of, like, big up to Kieran John Ward, because Kieran's the only one from what I'm seeing that has said no. And again, these things go over people's heads, because the way people see football, they just think just put in goal scorers on the pitch all at one time, it's going to work. But again, I stress to you, that isn't football. So, and Isa says, Haaland and Salah are finishers, but not brilliant at much else. Personally, I need more creativity in there. And again, big up to Isa, but this is how football works. The only way Haaland and Salah would work is if the left winger that you have is a prime creator. And that's what I'm trying to say to you. Like, because Haaland's the goal scorer, and Salah can assist, but he does get goals. But then that means that the player on the left-hand side would have to be a creator, because you can't have a goal scorer, because it's not gonna work. And that's just that is synergy and balance in front threes. So front three's job isn't creativity per se. But again, no one said it is. It's about having a balance. You can't have three goal scoring players in your front line and think you're going to get goals, because that's not how football works. You need to have a balance. Big up to Xedra. Big up, my guy. Yeah, no worries, man. No, listen, 12:30, man, is the 12:30, guys, is the prime time I'll be looking at going live. Obviously, if I do go live slightly earlier or slightly later, then again, obviously, I'll always let you guys know, or just have a look at the schedule. But 12:30 is the time that I'm trying to aim for at the moment. Gav, what do you think of United planning to block moves for players in January? I mean, I haven't heard it, but what I would say, if they're blocking moves for players in January, what is that, players outgoing, you mean? Oh, so if they're blocking players outgoing, well, I don't know really what to say about that, because if you're Kobe Manu, man, or Joshua Zirkzee right now, then you have to be thinking that if they're getting moves blocked in January, what does that mean for their what does that mean for their World Cup chances, it being in the squad? Because this manager doesn't rate them. And if he's still here, then I know people are saying, what about Mbuemo and Ahmad and Mazraoui that going off to AFCON? Yeah, I hear that, but why should Zirkzee and Kobe Manu shouldn't have to be relying on AFCON, of them players going to AFCON, for them to get game time? It shouldn't be that, So so you've seen how after Trent left, how Salah dropped off. He can't contribute in many other ways other than finishing. And with no good facilitators, he can't really do that. I agree. And the thing is, yeah, with Mo Salah, I said this at the start of the summer, the best way that I believe Arne Slot would have maximised Salah's legs is by going to a three at the back. Because, he could have used Jeremy Frimpong as the legs to provide a different outcome for Liverpool on that right-hand side, and allow Salah to play more in field and get numbers. So the fact that he never done that, probably showing why Salah's struggling. Because, again, there's no denying that Salah has dropped off in terms of his pace. But for me, play him closer to goal, would have obviously kept his numbers going, and you probably would have got a more efficient Mo Salah. But the fact he never changed to a back three, I think, was poor, man. It was poor. Gav, you still want Baleba even with his poor form. Obviously, if his form improves, that's different. But currently, I'm not sure. Yeah, listen, man. As I said, I'm not gonna really delve too much into it because I've spoken about Baleba before. But I know. Obviously, he was poor against United. He weren't great. But as I said, man, I don't like the fact that it's all of a sudden it was get Baleba, at the start of the summer, and then obviously it's quickly changing minds. I think, for me, I've seen the big enough of a sample size to know that Baleba has got something, and he will provide a lot to this Man United team. Obviously his head's been turned since the interest, but yeah, I'm still gonna say Baleba, man, 100%, 100%. I'm still gonna say Baleba. Yeah, but yeah, listen, as I said, just going back before we wrap. As I said, man, yeah, yeah. Today's stream, guys, more about, as I said, having because there was too many people saying that United need a 30 goal a season striker, and for me, I look at that as a lack of understanding of what football is today, because you don't get many 30. The thing is, the 30 goal a season striker is few and far between, because there's only really two that are central strikers that are getting those kind of numbers, and that's Erling Haaland and Harry Kane. Harry Kane's in his 30s. Erling Haaland's at Man City on a death row contract. So to think that Man United need a 30 goal season striker, they don't. They don't. And Mbuemo and Cunha hopefully are showing people that that isn't the case. And as I said, man, it's refreshing to see United actually looking at players that can, because again, we had Garnacho, you had Rashford that, again, Rashford needs to be moved on, and Rasmus Højlund in the front three, and instantly you can see what an upgrade Cunha and Mbuemo are on Rasmus and Garnacho. There's certain people out there that were saying that Garnacho will be going to Real Madrid. Like, they know who they are. And now all of a sudden, it's cool to crash it on Garnacho. Again, these people are fake, because all of a sudden it was Garnacho's the future, he's this, he's that. And all of a sudden, since Garnacho had the Aston Villa top on, and people actually have opened their eyes to see that Garnacho was never really good, people are now starting to change. It makes you laugh, really, because, people just say things at the heat of the moment, or just say things without thinking. But when you got Mbuemo and Cunha, who are massive upgrades, this is why the necessity for a 30 goal season striker, it isn't that, man. Which is why Joshua Zirkzee, for me, needs to be maximised at Manchester United, because I look at strikers in world football right now with the qualities that he has, and again, there isn't really any strikers with those qualities. There isn't, But I think a lot of people just either like Zirkzee or they don't, because they're probably too fixated or too used to seeing strikers, that in their eyes should be getting goals. And again, I do agree. Zirkzee has the capability to get more goals, but just have a look at what he'll provide for the team if he plays, and that's what it is. Garnacho is an average player at best, but yeah, listen, man, Garnacho was never gonna be a good player, really. I think people just wanted, well, as I said before, people just wanted Garnacho in the team because it was more of a case of getting rid of Rashford. That's all it was. As much as Rashford should have been moved on, Garnacho's not better than Rashford. But because Garnacho was perceived to come through the youth, his idol was Ronaldo, these fans were just desperate to put Garnacho into the team without actually looking at the bigger picture to realise that The guy's no good. He's got no physicality. You know, he hasn't really got the pace that will be as a game changer. He's not composed. Technically, he's not great. But yet, a lot of these fans were just too busy trying to put Garnacho in your face. And now all of a sudden, because Garnacho has shown what he's all about, a lot of these fans are now backtracking, saying, "Thank God they got rid of Garnacho." It's fake. That's what it is. Yeah, big up to Issa, man. Big up, man. I appreciate it. But Issa, listen, whatever I say, man, it's not. I'm not plucking talk from thin air, man. Like, I've got a footballing background, man. So a lot of people that say stuff just say stuff to say stuff. You know, some people come on the chat earlier today, and again, not really understanding the conversation, because a lot of these conversations go over people's heads. And again, I got some good mods in there. I got some good people that come in there that understand pure footballing talk, and this is what this channel is all about. Because there's not a lot of channels that I've seen that will give you this kind of angle, you know. Because again, it's not a conversation that is too familiar and too easy to understand. But again, if you love your football, man, these things are not really hard things to understand, in my opinion. It's just common sense the way that I see it. So, but you know, big up for subbing, man. Much appreciated. Zirkzee for me is not really a 9. He suits the 10 better due to his insane dribbling, but I hope he gets minutes. Yeah, big up to United fan 345. What I would say, people that say Zirkzee isn't a 9, this isn't true. It's not true. Zirkzee is a 9. It's just that Zirkzee is not a 9 that a lot of fans can relate to. You know what I mean? Zirkzee is a number 9 with number 10 skills. That's all it is. But in a different system, you can see Zirkzee is a 9. As I said, he's a 9 in a 4-2-3-1 where he can facilitate for the wide forwards. So again, what I would say is, don't listen to a lot of these pundits or the media or fan channels that tell you Zirkzee is not a 9, because it's nonsense. You know what I mean? Is he a number? Because the thing is as well, all number 9s are not the same. You know what I mean? Harry Kane's not a number 9 like Erling Haaland. You know, Harry Kane's not a number 9 like Kylian Mbappe. Even though Mbappe, for me, as I said, I still see him as a left winger, really. So when people say Zirkzee's not a 9, they're better off just saying he's not a number 9 that they like to see. That's more of a grown-up conversation. But people that say he's not a 9 is not true. It's the biggest load of nonsense I've heard, because he's a number 9 with number 10 qualities, which is why what I'm trying to say. Yeah, number 9s are few and far between in terms of players like a Zirkzee. Because I can guarantee this now, if Zirkzee was playing week in, week out for, let's say, an Arsenal, yeah, people wouldn't be saying Zirkzee's not a 9. That's the truth. He's not. People are just saying he's not a 9 because people are too fixated on a number 9 scoring goals. Because what's the difference between Zirkzee and Sesko? Because you're not getting fans saying Sesko's not a 9. Why are they not saying that? Because Sesko isn't really scoring goals regularly for United. He's not. So why are fans saying that Sesko's a 9 but Zirkzee isn't? Where's the proof to say Zirkzee's not a 9 but Sesko is? These are the questions that that are not really asked. It's just preference. So when people say that he's not a 9, it's nonsense, really. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah, exactly. You get false 9s. You get poachers. You know, you get fox in the box strikers. You know what I mean? You get players that play on the shoulder. Like, number 9s are all target men strikers. It's number 9 strikers, and they're not all the same. They're not. As I said, you wouldn't compare Harry Kane with Kylian Mbappe, who's playing through the middle. Because Harry Kane links the play, he drops deep. Mbappe wants to get on the shoulder. So you wouldn't compare all number 9s. So when I hear that Zirkzee's not a 9, it's nonsense. He's not a number 9 that you can relate with. That's all it is. You know? Yeah, listen, big up United fans says, I've never seen a striker in my time watching football like Josh Gav, people say he's like Berbatov. Again, when people say he's like Berbatov, it's a good comparison because, again, people wouldn't tell you that Berbatov wasn't a striker. Why is that? Why is that? Because Berbatov never got an obscene amount of goals. But why is it people assimilate Berbatov being a striker, but Zirkzee can't? Because if you're looking at both players in terms of technical ability, you know, it's a great comparison. But people will never tell you that Berbatov wasn't a striker. So why is Zirkzee not a 9? Again, I think there's too many people out there that don't really understand, and they're just spouting their opinions to other people and getting fooled. Zirkzee is a 9. Like, I'm not gonna have no one tell me he's not a 9. He is a 9. You know what I mean? False 9. You know, like Harry Kane and Joshua Zirkzee in terms of dropping deep, you know, and trying to link the play, they both do a similar thing. The difference is Harry Kane sprays balls, whereas he sprays balls left and right. Whereas Joshua Zirkzee would more like do like the 1-2 and use his insane footwork to maneuver chances or to link the play. You know, but they both do a similar job. Erling Haaland's not someone that drops deep and links the play like that or sprays balls. Erling Haaland runs in behind and can drop in to be the target man. So, again, not all strikers are the same, man. They're not. And Sam says he's definitely not a goal scoring 9. But again, there ain't too many goal scoring 9s. This is the problem. You know, if you think Joshua Zirkzee is going to get 30 goals, he's not going to do that because that isn't the kind of player that he is. So this is what people need to understand, man, unfortunately. Again, you can say Zirkzee isn't your type of striker or doesn't do it for you. That's fair enough. That's an opinion. But when people say he's not a striker or he's not a 9, that isn't true. It's not. Yeah. But guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming on. Been going for just over an hour. Big up to Adam Fammy, man. Long time, Adam, man. How you been? I'm all good, man. I'm all good. Yeah, guys, listen, before we wrap, because obviously Adam's someone I've been in contact for a while. Obviously has been on the channel before. Adam, I'm just talking about Joshua Zirkzee, because a lot of fans think that Zirkzee isn't a 9. Bro, what's your take on Zirkzee? Do you think he's a 9 or not? Because as I said, man, I know we've had this conversation before, but a lot of fans think Zirkzee isn't a 9. What's your take, my guy, man, on if you think Zirkzee is a 9 or not? Before we wrap up. I like that tall, silky profile a lot. I hope Zirkzee comes into his own in the future. Yeah, listen, man, he will. He will, 100%. He will come into his own. I think what it is with Joshua Zirkzee is that he's like Marmite, really. You know, you either like him or you don't. And but when I hear people say that he's not a 9, it's not. So yeah, Adam says, I like Zirkzee, man. Yeah, sure, I think he's a 9. At least he's more of a 9 than a winger or a 10. And again, exactly what I'm saying. So he's a number 9 with number 10 qualities. That is it. You know, that is it. Like it's as plain and simple as that. A number 9 with number 10 qualities. But when people are saying he's not a 9, yeah, it's not true. Because if he goes to, as I said, an Arsenal or to a Chelsea, even a Man City, you know, their managers there are playing him as a 9. So don't look at the fact that Ruben Amorim thinks he has to play as a 10. And obviously he doesn't look at him as a 9 as to say that he's not a 9, because he is, man. He definitely is. Yeah, exactly, man. People are just shocked at players being good at other things. 100%, man. That's the problem, you know. Zirkzee, Sesko, Walter Marda, and Ekatike are the same player. Yeah, well, there you go. I think Ekatike is probably closer to Sesko, I would say. I think Zirkzee and Walter Marder, you could look at them as being very similar in terms of the link play. But yeah, that's a good comparison, Mike, man. 100%, I would agree with that. 100%, I would agree with that, man. You know, we can't look at all strikers as being the same, unfortunately, because as I said, the comparison is you wouldn't compare Harry Kane with Kane and Mbappe. You wouldn't compare those two players. So why people are saying that Zirkzee's not a 9? Yeah. Why is he not a 9? Because Berbatov was a 9. Berbatov and Zirkzee are very similar in the language style. But no one said Berbatov wasn't a 9. So yeah, man. And yeah, bro, I agree, man. I grew up on wingers dribbling, scoring, and scoring free kicks. Bro, yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. The way it's gone now, and this is a conversation that I like to have, yeah? People need to understand the difference of having players out wide. You get wingers, you get wide forwards, and you get number 10s playing out wide. Not all wide players are all the same. Riyad Mahrez was a bit of a hybrid. A number 10 and a winger playing out wide. Mo Salah's a wide forward. Jadon Sancho is a number 10 playing out wide. Cody Gakpo for Liverpool, you would say he's a wide forward. Jack Grealish is a number 10 playing out wide. So people need to understand the differences of wingers, wide forwards, and number 10s from out wide. These guys don't all do the same job. Mo Salah playing as a wide forward, he's tasked with scoring goals. Jadon Sancho or Jack Grealish, they're tasked with creativity. Riyad Mahrez is a bit of a hybrid. He can do a bit of both in terms of being an out-and-out winger to create, or being or a 10 to create, and as well as get goals. So yeah, listen, that's a difference, man, because I think a lot of people don't really get that or doesn't really have an interest in that. But on this channel, we'll talk about these kind of things. So, but yeah, guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming on each and every time. Guys, as always, make sure you guys sub to the channel if you're new in here. And make sure you smash the like button on your way out. And again, make sure you share the channel, guys. We're on, 1.7K now. So obviously, just under 300 short of 2K subs. So yeah, listen, channel's growing. And again, if you guys do enjoy the content, as I said, make sure you guys keep coming back. And make sure you sub to the channel if you're new in here, man. And as I said, make sure you share the channel. So as I said, guys, I got a fight coming up in December. And I've got some clips of me training, which I'm going to put together, which is going to be members only. So I'll be putting that up very, very soon. But yeah, listen, man, I've got training tomorrow as well. So just going to be focusing on that. And yeah, as well, man, giving you guys the content, man. So yeah, big up to United fan, man. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's my third one. So I'm looking forward to it, man. All for a good cause as well, man, for charity. So men's mental health is what I'm fighting, is what the charity is. Adam's Man Club. So that's what it's called, Adam's Man Club, funny enough. So yeah, listen, man, if you guys, if there is mental health that you guys have suffered from the past, again, man, it's all for a good cause. So these things are not really talking about as much. But for me, it's all about having a strong mind, yeah, once you've got a strong mind, you can't be defeated, man. That's the truth. So that's what I plan, man, on bringing to my fight, 100%. So putting in the work, I'm enjoying it. And I just can't wait, man. I just can't wait. So, Gav, what's your weight and height, if you don't mind me asking? Do you know what, yeah? It's mad because when I had my last fight, I was 79 kg. So I went in, I started off at, yeah, it's boxing, man. Yeah, it's boxing, Issa. Boxing. I went into my fight at my last one at 8. I was 84 when I started, and I got down to 79 for the fight. So the guy that I fought was, I believe, 78 or 70. I think it might have been 78. So I was a kg heavier than him. But this one now, I weighed 85 when I went in there. So I'm trying to get down to about 81 or 80 for the fight. So I got 6 weeks into the fight. At the moment, I'm gonna weigh myself end of the month. But last time I checked, when I first started, I was about just on 85 kg. So yeah, I want to try and get down to, as I said, 80, 82, 81 for the fight. So I'm gonna weigh myself end of the month and see where I'm at. But yeah, listen, I can definitely do that, man. And yeah, my height, I'm 5'7". Yeah, 5'7", man. So as I said, man, yeah, it's one of them things. But yeah, listen, I'm looking forward to it, man. And Gav on Misfits. Yeah, not not yet, man. Not yet. Yeah, not yet. It's a long way to go for that, man. But you know what it is with the boxing, man. I think with boxing, I like it because it gives you a focus and it makes you disciplined. You know, the training side of it ain't a joke. You know, and what you have to realize is that going into a boxing fight, it's either you or him. So, are you outworking your opponent? You know what I mean? That's the main thing. Are you putting the work in so that when it comes to fight night, you know, it's a lot easier. These are the kind of things that need to be looked at, man. And as I said, you know, my eating and my training is going well. You know what I mean? Just got to just maintain it and just be focused, man. And that's the main thing, man. So how long have you been doing it for? Like, how old was you when you started? So you know what it is, yeah? It's not like how long I've been doing it for. When I was younger, again, if any of you that don't know my background in football, you know, obviously played for Chelsea's academy for 7 years and played for Tottenham's academy for 3 years. So obviously, yeah, I've had a great experience in what I've done purely in football. But I actually started off doing a bit of judo and a bit of boxing before I started playing football. You know, I started playing football when I was I started playing football when I was 6, but then obviously got into a club about 7 or 8. But I was doing judo and boxing at the same time and then doing a bit of football. But football took over, obviously, once I obviously went into the academy, obviously at Chelsea and that. And then, yeah, but I've always had like a liking to boxing. You know, I enjoy the training. And as I said, my last fight was back in 2019. And I've always said I want to go and do another one. And again, I've got one coming up, 2023. So yeah, man, like, so yeah, it's not something like I've religiously done. I just enjoyed the fighting. I just enjoyed the boxing and the training. And again, it gives you a focus, man, which is why I'm doing it. Because obviously, you know, my channel, going to the gym, etc., and doing having a focus to do like a boxing training camp, you know, it's good, man. It's good for me. And again, it's helped me. You know, I'm not a massive drinker, but I found myself, you know, having the odd drink here and there. And I haven't drank now for coming up to what, 2 months now, and that's because of just the focus of the training and knowing that, you know, you've got to put your all into it. So yeah, listen, man, it's that's what I'm trying to say, man. It's yeah, it's about having a focus, man. Mike says, Gav, why didn't you go professional for football? You know what, Mike? This is a conversation for another day, man. As I said, man, there's I've had loads of experiences in football. You know, played against some. Obviously, I played against Wayne Rooney when I was younger, Samir Nasri, in my youth as well. So I've had massive experiences, but I think what I would say about being in professional academies, unless you've been in that environment, yeah, you don't understand what goes on in academies in terms of favoritism and how you're treated, etc. Because football, you know, football back then for me, it wasn't about how good you are. You know, it's politics. You know, and anyone that's been in a professional academy setup would know what I'm talking about. You know, it's a lot of politics that goes on in these academy setups. You know, it's not necessarily about if you're better than the other player. You know, there's other underhanded things that do go on. So, and as Sam has said, man, it's about who you know. That is a lot of it. I would say to any player coming up now in the new generation, you know, it's never been more easier for me, in my opinion, to become a professional footballer now, because there's everything that is set up for you to not fail, really. You know, there's more opportunities. When you're seeing more kind of, you know, like you're seeing a lot of younger players now breaking into first team squads. And I'll be honest, I don't think that there are exceptions to the rules, the likes of Lamine Yamal's, but a lot of the players that are breaking into first teams at a young age, they're not. It's not that they're really that good. It's just that it's just obviously, you know, things have changed and there's more opportunity. That's what I would say. But as I said, man, yeah, there's loads of like I say, this conversation is a conversation for another time. Obviously, I might have a conversation, you know, from members only section, a live Q&A. I might do that. I might do it for that. So yeah, once you guys become a member or we get some more members in, you know, I'll probably delve a bit more into, you know, my background in football and what I've experienced, etc. You know, on that front. But yeah, listen, man, I've had some great experiences. So, but yeah, as I said, with the boxing, it's good, man, to have a focus, and that's mainly why I'm doing. And but listen, Mike, you said it, man. Favoritism and skin color. Yeah, listen, if people think these things are not a factor, then again, man, yeah, it's an eye opener. I'll put it that way. But listen up, guys. Big up yourselves for coming through each and every time. As I said, smash the like button on the way out. Make sure you sub to the channel if you're new in here, and share the channel. As I said, definitely should be back tomorrow morning. Probably back at same time, 12:30. Yeah, I'll be back at same time, 12:30. So yeah, make sure you guys have got your notifications on to see when I go live. And as I said, yeah, big up yourselves for coming through and contributing to the channel as always. And as I said, man, yeah, I think Carabao Cup tonight. I can't do a watch along tonight or tomorrow because I've got boxing training. I've got training tonight as well. So, but yeah, probably be reacting to a couple of the games if I get time. But yeah, definitely back tomorrow at 12:30, man. So, yeah, big up yourselves, guys, for coming on. Smash the like and sub to the channel. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy.